And welcome back, everyone, to Naruto Kids. How strong can we make them? Series. So, with me starting the Akatsuki now, I'm like, why don't I just do one video for each of the Akatsuki members? I think that'd be fun. And then we'll start back up with doing Naruto, Sasuke, and all that again. I think that's a good way to kind of round it out and get back to the originals again. So, with that being said, we did Kasame. I didn't get a lot of use out of Kasame, to be honest. Kasame's kind of difficult. But Konan is interesting because Konan, we know her main ability is to turn her body into paper, manipulate that paper in many ways. We know that paper is actually resistant to water and fire. You need something that's got a bit more, I can't remember exactly the term, something that can cling a bit more like oil. Oil has a different viscosity than water. That's why Jiraiya was able to bind her with it. And while they're not immune to water or fire, they're highly resistant. This allows her to separate her body, create animals, suffocate people, create wings, attacks like with a giant spear. She can basically travel long distances from her body and like look through and the paper and see things. So she's actually got quite an interesting ability with that. So who would I pair up? Well, who would I pair up? Eventually everyone. But more to the point, what do we get with certain kids? Well, let's start with the most difficult one here, Nagato, because it's obviously her and Yaiko famously had feelings for each other. I'm going to just turn my fan off here at the moment. It's a little cool at the moment. Her and Yaiko had feelings for each other, and she clearly cared very much about Nagato. So, hypothetically, what would a kid between them look like? Well, assuming that the paper manipulation jutsu is genetic, and like a Kekkei Genkai at some point, which it's not labeled one, but frankly could be. We know that kid inherits that. But do they inherit anything from Nagato apart from a large chakra reserve, courtesy of the Uzumaki heritage? And that's difficult to say. We only have one instance of someone with a Rinnegan having kids and passing down abilities, and that's obviously Hagoromo himself with Indra and Ashura. Neither of them had a Rinnegan as far as we know. We know Indra had a Sharingan, but he did not have at least I don't think Indra ultimately ended up with a Rinnegan. I'm going to double check that right now. Indra Naruto. Let's see here. So, did he ultimately end up with a Rinnegan? Because if he did, that does help, but also doesn't matter. So, let's see here. Does he have Susanoo, Sharingan? I mean, yeah, as far as I can tell, all he had was a Sharingan, not a Rinnegan. Dojutsu. Yep. As far as I can tell, he never gained it. So that doesn't bode well for anyone trying to inherit a Rinnegan per se without extra steps. But beyond that, it's not Nagato's Rinnegan. It's Madara's Rinnegan. It's not natural to him. That's why he can't turn it off. So, I don't think you could really inherit much from him. But with that said, that's still six paths in nature to some degree. It's possible, however unlikely, that maybe some subset of the abilities of the Rinnegan could be inherited. Maybe, like, some of the paths in theory could be inherited, but the better option in theory would be that someone like Madara, who naturally had a Rinnegan, well, he had to go through some rigmaroles, but he naturally awoken it through taking Hashirama's DNA, combining it with himself, and then waiting. But he still had it. In theory, some of that ability could be passed down. Unfortunately, because it's not natural, Nagato really only has a large chakra reserve to naturally pass down to him. Although the chakra natures could still be added into it, because he does have access to those. That's just something the Rinnegan allows. So I guess maybe this kid could have any combination of the chakra natures, which I guess then bears the question, combining the paper with any of the chakra natures, was that allowed? We already looked at Kasame and what that could do. Paper hiding in water, because her paper doesn't just deteriorate and get soggy in water. So that's at least something. With Earth, in theory, you could cover your paper in, like, say, a light coating of rock, make it more durable, enhance it beyond there, kind of create some more like blades of paper. just create more durable paper, or hide paper under the ground and then surprise someone. With fire paper, I mean, it can resist fire. It's not fireproof. I suppose that's a bit more difficult to figure out. I suppose you could maybe start manipulating ash in theory, because the paper still stays paper if it burns. It's just ash now. I mean, it's not the one-to-one the same thing, but in theory, maybe just send burning pieces of paper at someone at high speeds. With lightning, there's not really much you can combine with lightning and paper, except for say because it's wood, it's insulated. So again, you could hide paper in lightning. In wind, you could increase the area effect of the paper. Sadly, it doesn't lend a lot to the situation or the jutsu, sadly. But then we get to someone like Itachi, who I guess we'll just go there. There we go. Itachi, who, okay, you would have a Sharingan user with the paper release. But remember, you also, this person, in theory, this kid, could also have the ability to separate themselves, literally combine themselves, and see things from a distance. So, hi, little bug. What are you doing here? Yeah, sorry, fly. I don't want you in my room. I actually literally just caught that sucker like that. I am Miyagi. But no. So you'd have someone who, in theory, could now extend the use of their Sharingan a great deal, because she can reform from a distance and just see things from long range. This will allow her to also manipulate her paper probably more effectively, seeing more chakra patterns. In theory, if this kid were to awaken a Mangekyo Sharingan, you would now have paper mixed with Susanoo. So added armor protection, Susanoo with paper. This, I mean, in theory, I could see this Susanoo literally being kind of like an origami type form, where it almost actually changes forms and morphs its weapons into different things. So there's definitely options there. Remember, though, our Mangekyo is not one-to-one. Some abilities can be inherited, but others are just unique to individuals. Sasuke and Itachi are a prime example of this. Sasuke did get Amaterasu. And we know that even though Itachi implanted Amaterasu in Sasuke's eye, that was still an ability of Sasuke's Mangekyo. But he doesn't have Tsukiyomi. He has the ability to manipulate fire and his Amaterasu. So there's no telling what this kid's Mangekyo would actually be, but adding paper into the mix to represent their heritage is very much up for grabs. And again, the ability to just kind of like appear, put people into genjutsu, all that would be pretty powerful. But then what about someone who's a bit more artistic, if you will? Crap. We're just gonna move you down there. No, I don't want to touch you there. I want, there he is. There he is. Datara. We'll move Konan a little. There we go. Datara. Okay, compliant. So apparently the hand melds are a forbidden jutsu that Datara acquired before abandoning the Stone Village. But he is an explosion release user first and foremost. So this kid doesn't have the hand mounts. As far as we know, that can't be inherited. But explosion release could be inherited. And yeah, literal paper bombs. We saw Konan use actual paper bombs. The amount she had to spend a lot of time making it. Now you can literally turn your body into. Now, kids, you today can turn your body into paper bombs. I mean, paper clones have to be a thing. So yeah, these two could mix dangerously well. Just because of just how much how Conan's abilities work. I mean, in theory, if this kid kind of went the suicide route as Datara did, or just like knowing they're going to die as Konan did, literally just evaporate their body into just papers and just explosion release the entire area, carpet bomb, more or less. So it's certainly a combination of techniques that can work well together. Definitely. But what about different artists of sorts? What about the puppet master? Well, this is where we can also get into some more unique things. The ability to, in essence, control puppets from a much longer distance away. Again, just read the chakra strings in theory could be attached to the paper itself. As long as you are conscious and aware of what's going on, you should be able to control as many puppets as you want from each individual strand. But beyond that, I mean, paper puppets are a thing. Mixing your paper and puppet jutsus together could be a thing. Just summoning more paper from your puppets. And again, puppets made of paper, I think, is very much in play there. Basically, just a regenerating puppet who can just keep taking damage and keep going. That is a very real and scary threat right there. Not to mention knowledge of poisons, poison paper. Not only do you get like the poison senbons and blades, just combining poison with the paper, you ever get a paper cut? Sucks, it stings, but now you've got lethal poison in there too. Once again, these are two individuals whose abilities do work well together in terms of combining into one. So now for the last one, not an Akatsuki member, let's throw a curveball in there. I just heard a mosquito. I was like, oh, you, where are you, mosquito? Yeah, where are you at? I just heard you. You buzzed in my ear. I'll find you, you SOB. Let's end things off with someone more on the good side of things. Might Guy! If Might Guy were to have an amazing kid of youth with Konan, how powerful would this child be? You'd obviously have all, I mean, maybe not all the skill, but you'd have all the training and skill. No, didn't get it. Skill of Might Guy, first and foremost, which means you're getting Lee maybe 2.0. In fact, you probably are, because we've seen Metal doesn't have the same chakra, same inability to mold chakra his dad does, which means any kid Guy has, or Lee has, can theoretically still mold chakra. So you already have an advantage over Guy or Lee in that regard. But then you're going to factor in Guy's training. So at minimum, you're having someone like Lee. But then you also activate the inner gates. And then you add the paper jutsu on there, which means not only do you have the ferocity of the taijutsu stylings of Might Guy, you have the inability to be hurt by physical damage in the traditional sense. Because any attack that they try to just hit you with, you just slam in, they slam back, just it's like, sorry, and then you can now hit them, create paper fists, create paper bodies, just attack with the paper with just the power of youth, inner gates. Again, you add taijutsu into an ability like this could become very dangerous. Very dangerous. Harden your paper with chakra, which is, I think, what Konan ultimately does to get the effect she does. And then the speed and power of Might Guy. Oofa! You got a scary guy there, bruh. Scary guy there, bruh. So, ultimately, yeah, that is What If Naruto Kids, How Strong Could They Be? The Konan edition. So next week, I think we'll go circle all the way back to Naruto and go from there. But until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.